reacting to your Friday Night SmackDown Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Take, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. Now, if you are looking for our full review of this episode of Friday Night SmackDown, it's already up and available on patreon.com/SantiZap with footage so that you can see exactly what it is that we're talking about. That's patreon.com/SantiZap, link in the description, link in the pinned comment. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notification. If you're a wrestling fan, I am incredibly confident that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, let's read your stupid shit. Seeing the Wyatt 6 return on Bray Wyatt's birthday was the best possible way to bring them back into the fold. Also, them wrecking havoc all over the tag team division instead of trying to find a deeper meaning for their feuds like last time is such a better role for them. I couldn't agree more with pretty much everything that you said here. I love how and when they brought back the Wyatt 6. I love that they chose Bray Wyatt's birthday, and the moment with the birthday cake with them blowing out the candle was just so beautiful, so poetic, and it had me smiling from ear to ear. Really, the only downside was that they had to do this in front of such a terrible crowd that refused to make noise pretty much the entire night. I just sincerely hope that they just use the Wyatt 6. The big problem that I had with the Wyatt 6's booking when they were on Monday Night Raw was that they would go weeks or sometimes like an entire month, sometimes even more in between their appearances, and that would really damage their momentum. But with them being inserted into the tag team division, a tag team division that is very successful, a tag team division that is healthy, that has numerous teams for them to be able to have matches and feuds with, should hopefully mean that we have something for the Wyatt 6, ideally on a weekly basis. And just because they're in the tag team division doesn't necessarily mean that we have to completely stray away from maybe some of the bigger, deeper feuds that you could have with Uncle Howdy. He could still go after other individuals that have betrayed family while the rest of the Wyatt 6 really holds it down in the tag team division. I'd be entirely fine with that. But so far, they've knocked it out of the park. They made the right decision. The way that they did it, the production, the date, all of it was perfection. Remember when Luke Skywalker still believed that there was good left in Darth Vader and wanted to do anything to bring him back to the light? That's what R-Truth's promo about Cena tonight felt like. I adored R-Truth's promo about John Cena. This is kind of what I wanted Cody Rhodes to do on his road to WrestleMania and his feud with John Cena. I wanted him to save John Cena. I wanted him to try and bring John Cena back into the light, and what we're getting from R-Truth is that exact same thing that I wanted Cody Rhodes to do. And R-Truth said the exact line that I wanted Cody Rhodes to say. In order to save the WWE, I have to save John Cena. It's not about beating John Cena. It's about making John Cena see the light. It's about making John Cena see the error of his ways. And R-Truth is genuinely the perfect character for this. I've said this before in previous videos that it feels like R-Truth is the representation of John Cena's fans trying to bring him back into the light just in professional wrestling form. And after that promo, I couldn't feel more right. R-Truth needs to be given more opportunities on the microphone, more opportunities to be more of a serious character, because in my opinion, he completely crushed this promo. And the biggest downside of all of this is just the fact that we never really got a proper interaction between Truth and Cena to help build to this match. I love what they're doing with Solo, Jacob, and JC. Solo's character work in particular deserves our attention. Dude's been a great comical villain. Solo Sakoa, somehow, I cannot believe I'm saying this, is my favorite part of pretty much every single episode of Friday Night SmackDown over the last several weeks. The dude has me gut-busting laughing with his comedic delivery while also not being this like completely over-the-top goofy character. I think that he's playing this character so incredibly well. And I like what they're doing here between Solo and Jacob Fatu, still kind of alluding to this tension that there is between the two. The fact that we now have JC Mateo being included in the picture, somebody that Jacob Fatu never wanted to be in the picture in the first place, but really gives Solo Sikoa that upper hand should he ever have to go after Jacob Fatu in a physical form. I really just like the interactions that all of these guys are having with one another, even if JC Mateo doesn't have to say a single word. And it also looks like the Bloodline might be getting inserted into the tag team division. Right before the Street Profits went out for their match, we had them have an interaction with the Bloodline, which maybe should signify the return of the Tongans, Tongaloa, and Tamatonga. And if that's the case, then the SmackDown tag team division's about to get even freaking better somehow. But yeah, I agree with you. Jacob, Solo, and JC, in particular Solo, like you said, have just been so good and deserve the love. The Carmelo Miz pairing is doing nothing for me. Sure, Miz just gave him a qualifying match for Money in the Bank, but they have like no storyline. I just don't get it. Someone enlighten me. I gotta be honest with you, I disagree with you. This storyline is actually working for me, and it's making me see the Miz in a different light, and it's making me root for the rise of Carmelo Hayes altogether. I don't know how you don't really see a storyline. To me, it's pretty basic. The mentor that's trying to force his way on the mentee to have this glory and this success. It's the mentor trying to relive his past heydays, his past successes through the new young gun. To me, it's clear as day. Now, if it's a story you don't like, that's a different conversation altogether. I can't really argue against that. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But to say that there is no story is entirely wrong. I mean, these guys have been progressing their story pretty much for the past like 6 straight weeks. They've had moments on Friday Night SmackDown developing this story. When The Miz retires from in-ring action, he can be the next Paul Heyman once Paul Heyman retires. His mic work is insane, and WWE would be dumb not to capitalize on his unique talent on bringing up talent on who will need a mic piece to get over in the future. I mean, he's basically already playing that role right now for Carmelo Hayes. The big difference, of course, is that he can actually get physical in the ring and still have pretty decent matches himself. But if we're talking somewhere down the line where The Miz is no longer an in-ring competitor, and you were to tell me that The Miz could become a manager, I would say absolutely shit, yeah, let's do it. I think he would be fantastic in that role. Now, to be the next Paul Heyman, that's a bit of a big ask. Paul Heyman is one of one. Paul Heyman is a legend in doing what Paul Heyman does. But could The Miz be a fantastic manager once his in-ring days are done? You goddamn right he could be. I think WWE having some main roster talent on Worlds Collide is absolutely fantastic, Santi. Do you think that there's a world where we could see Penta, Rey Fenix on the card at all? As I think it'd be pretty cool, to be honest. Well, with Rey Fenix not qualifying for Money in the Bank, we still need to see if Penta will qualify or not. I gotta imagine that if they don't qualify, that they're still gonna be part of this weekend in some way, shape, or form, and Worlds Collide is a perfect consolation prize for those two. I think it's a great idea to have main roster people on this show. I'm excited to see Legado del Fantasma. I'm excited to see what El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., Psycho Clown, and Pagano are all about, because I don't really know much about them either. So I'm excited about the prospect of seeing WWE like main roster people in this. But the reason why I'm really excited for Worlds Collide is to be exposed to new wrestlers that I don't really have much information on, like these three. But I gotta imagine that we won't be getting too much main roster talent aside from maybe, like you said, Penta and Rey Fenix. I feel like that's probably where it stops, because we still need to add NXT talent. There's rumors of TNA talent that's also going to be added to this card, and we know that WWE doesn't tend to really do more than 4 to 5 match cards, and we already have one of them, so there's only room typically for 4 more matches if we're going by traditional WWE booking, so I don't really think that leaves too much room for much more main roster guys aside from Penta and Rey Fenix. If I'm a betting man, I'm willing to bet that Penta makes it to Money in the Bank and that Rey Fenix doesn't. Well, we know that he already didn't, but I bet that Rey Fenix probably has a singles match at Worlds Collide. Love how serious R-Truth got during this promo. Wish Cena was there so that we can get a confrontation between them. So I already mentioned this. That to me is just highway robbery that we didn't really get an opportunity to build this match off the back of actual genuine interactions between R-Truth and John Cena. Sure, we had the moment at the press conference, but that's about it. And I think that this is a big symptom and a big problem of having a part-time champion on such a limited schedule with such limited dates, because you can't really properly build his matches and his feuds. It was a problem during the Randy Orton feud where that felt rushed, and this is quadruple, quintupled version of how rushed the Randy Orton feud was. They didn't even have a single interaction. So shout out to R-Truth for carrying and making this feud basically entirely on his own. Oh my God! Oh! Okay, that's filthy. That was and beautiful. Man, I love that spirit bomb. Oh yeah. Woo! That, folks, was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at maybe the most insane backyard wrestling match that I've ever seen from BXW Backyard Wrestling. John Cena versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23. CM Punk versus Raven from Ring of Honor in a Clockwork Orange Funhouse match. Keith Lee versus Penta from AAW Pro. And Will Ospreay versus Speedball Mike Bailey from TNA back in 2020. 2021. You're going to be getting all of this, plus the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else, the currently ongoing Royal Rumble watch-alongs that we're doing, and now we're starting a new series where we're watching every single John Cena WWE Championship victory of his career. So come check it out. That's patreon.com/SantiZap. There's a link in the description or a link in the pinned comment. I'm confident that if you try it even for just 1 month, that you are going to fall in love with the content and the community. But that's enough. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. Let's get you back to the video. I would love to actually see these two have an actual feud. I think it would be interesting given how good the Shinsuke promo was last week and how good their chemistry was tonight. Crazy that this is only the second time that we've seen them face off. They truly did have fantastic chemistry with each other. Honestly, one of the things that I said is, imagine if we got these guys having a match or a feud during the heyday, the prime of NXT Black and Gold. That genuinely would have melted my face with how good the matches and the feuds would have been. Unfortunately, in 2025, it's just not the same anymore, especially with how poor WWE has booked Shinsuke Nakamura. He just doesn't feel like a legitimate threat. That entire time during the match, the triple threat between Aleister Black, Shinsuke, and LA Knight, I was just sort of waiting for the moment that Shinsuke was going to be pinned. I just saw that he was there to be pinned, and that's not a way that I want to think of Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, if they were to do Shinsuke Nakamura versus Aleister Black in a feud, would I hate that? No. I just don't think that WWE would make that feud be valuable and worth it for us fans, considering, again, like I mentioned, the poor booking of Shinsuke Nakamura. I just don't think that WWE has it in them to make an interesting feud between these two. Could they have an interesting feud? You goddamn right, but would WWE do it? I don't think so. The Wyatt Six have the ability to be a main event faction, and I hope that they do something with Uncle Howdy and Cena, even if it's just a quick backstage segment. Cena turned on his family, the fans, and there's so much history that it would feel criminal not to do something with it. I agree, and this is why I said earlier on in the video that you could have the members of the Wyatt Six be ingrained in the tag team division while Uncle Howdy still has his deeper, more meaningful feuds with singles roster members, and I think that John Cena would be a perfect opponent. There's so many WWE PLEs between now and John Cena's retirement. We have a handful of Saturday night's main events if you don't really want to use one of the big PLEs to do Uncle Howdy versus Cena. But all I'm saying is that there's a lot of space, a lot of opportunity to run something between Uncle Howdy and John Cena, and it's just such a perfectly written story. We obviously know the history between John Cena and Bray Wyatt. They had not one, but 2 WrestleMania matches. One of the WrestleMania matches was the Firefly Funhouse, which was all about exploring John Cena's dark side and his tendencies to be kind of a jerk and his refusal to be the bad guy in the WWE. And now we are here in a world, in a lifetime where John Cena is all of those horrible things that Bray Wyatt shined a mirror to during the Firefly Funhouse. And I would love for them to revisit this in some way, shape, or form. Again, lots of opportunities to do it, lots of dates, lots of matches. The guys are both on the same show. Let's do it. Let's run Uncle Howdy and John Cena in some capacity. R-Truth had one of the best promos of the year. It wasn't anything super special when it came to insults or aggression, but it perfectly outlined what the match is, and it showed the most clear-minded truth that we've seen in a while. I'm really excited for the story and the match. I think the reason why this works so well, aside from the great delivery from R-Truth, is that it's just such a simple story to get behind. The super fan seeing his favorite hero just not be himself, and he wants to bring him back to the person that he idolized. That's so simple. That's so basic. Anybody could get behind this storyline. I love it, and I love the fact that there's no title involved in any way, shape, or form. I just love that it's R-Truth fighting for the image of his hero. That's awesome. By the way, I loved when R-Truth dropped the line, "If Cena wins, we riot." Beautiful callback. LA Knight needs to win Money in the Bank this year. It's in LA, for crying out loud. The story writes itself. Listen, I don't mind the idea of LA Knight becoming the next Mr. Money in the Bank. I just don't think it needs to be simply because they're in Los Angeles. I think he just has done a really great job over the last 3 years and deserves a big push, like a Money in the Bank briefcase. And with champions like Jey Uso in the mix, I do believe that somebody like LA Knight could be a very viable, a very credible threat to something like the World Heavyweight Championship. Plus, this is his 3rd straight Money in the Bank ladder match, and we've been wanting him to win it for a while. I think it's time. I love the idea of LA Knight winning it this time around. Let's do it. Did anyone ask for the Wyatt Six or whatever they're even called back? I could care less about them, to be honest. Haven't been pushed in months, and now they just show up, and for what? Well, what the hell's the alternative? They have to show up at some point. What did you expect them to do? do to just not appear ever again? Listen, I get if somebody or a group or a tag team isn't your cup of tea, but this is just such a brain dead thing to say. Just because they haven't been pushed for months and haven't appeared on TV for months, all of a sudden that makes them worthless, that makes them lack value. All of a sudden they can't be pushed. All of a sudden they can't appear on TV. Come on, like, think before you write. Regarding WrestleMania, it doesn't totally matter where WrestleMania is held, as long as WWE does their job right by telling compelling storylines, keeping us engaged, and having banger matches with thrilling payoffs. It shouldn't matter if they're in Vegas or Tibet. So I disagree with you. I also think that you're writing this purely from the perspective of somebody that only watches WrestleMania at home. There are a ton of people that want to go to WrestleManias and want to experience different cities around the world, around the United States, and it would get boring for the fans that traditionally go to WrestleManias every year to have to go to the same city. By the way, Las Vegas is ridiculously expensive. Like, if you've never been to Las Vegas, it's tough for me to really convey how stupid expensive Las Vegas is, from everything from Ubers to accommodations to literal just water bottles cost an arm and a leg in Las Vegas. And in a world where WWE ticket prices are already insane, going to a place like Las Vegas year after year after year is just going to be absolutely brutal for people's wallets. And here's the thing, the Las Vegas crowd wasn't particularly a great crowd either. They didn't make for a great environment. So I would love for WWE to try different places, to find different environments, to find different rowdy crowds. Does it ultimately come down to the engaging storylines and good matches? Yeah, absolutely. But WrestleMania is like a whole spectacle. I want more than just a good show. I want to see more than just that. I want to see what truly makes WrestleMania feel like the showcase of the immortals. I feel like WrestleMania should be going from city to city to city, showing the world the vastness of how awesome professional wrestling is. And I just feel like it loses that magic if it's just stuck in the same city year after year. Fraxium getting a wonderful graphic, but also getting Def Rebelled is as WWE as it gets. I just want to clarify that the previous song was also by Def Rebel. And to be fair, I'm not saying that I love this new entrance theme. To be fair, Fraxium didn't really have a theme to begin with. It was just the first portion of Nathan Frazier's theme, and then the back end was Axiom's theme. So it was like not even like a good mix of the two. It was just like Frazier's and then Axiom's, and then Frazier's and then Axiom's. There really wasn't much creativity towards it. I haven't really gotten a chance to really decide whether I love or hate Fraxium's new theme, but I guess I'm glad that they have something that's unique to them specifically as a tag team. I'm not moved by the Wyatt 6 return. While I appreciate them and I acknowledge Bray Wyatt, I personally feel like this is something they aren't going to build on long term, and they're going to go on another hiatus due to lack of storyline. See, I feel like this is a much better way to talk about your concerns with the Wyatt 6. Much better written than the last person. Here's the thing, I get where you're coming from. However, I do feel like you're going off of historical evidence, which I do think is a fair thing to go off of, but my hope is that they don't follow and repeat their awful historical treatment of the Wyatt 6 and try something new. And the fact that they've been inserted into such a lively tag team division that gives them the ability to have matches, interactions, and feuds hopefully every single week does hopefully mean that they're going to be treated and booked better this time around. Because as I mentioned earlier, and what you're alluding to here, their constant hiatuses absolutely killed their momentum on Monday Night Raw. The Money in the Bank qualifier match of Naomi, Nia Jax, and Jade Cargill should have been a women's WWE Championship contender match where the winner faces Tiffy at Money in the Bank. I honestly completely agree with you. When I saw that match was a qualifier match for Money in the Bank, I was kind of shocked because these are the three people that are hovering around Tiffany Stratton, and I feel like what you're saying here makes a lot more sense. Just have them have a #1 contendership match to face Tiffany Stratton. But hell, I'm not complaining about getting the match. I feel like the circumstances of the match, a Money in the Bank qualifier, just don't really fit here, especially because the other qualifiers have been additions of men and women that don't have any connection or ties to one another. This is like the one match where all three women are already part of the same storyline. So I am expecting crazy shenanigans in that match in some way, shape, or form. But it seems like overkill for a Money in the Bank qualifier. I'll say that. What are your thoughts on next year's Money in the Bank being advertised for after that year's SummerSlam, and on how WWE has now started putting out 2 PLEs in a month? The 2 PLEs in a month, I guess I'm fine with. It is a lot, and obviously when you add things like Saturday Night's Main Event and NXT, it can become a little bit overwhelming. But as somebody that covers wrestling, the more wrestling that there is, the better that I tend to do in terms of like YouTube analytics and numbers. So I say bring them on. Give me more PLEs. But I will say that when you add this many more PLEs, it can hurt storytelling, like we're seeing here in the road to Money in the Bank, where they haven't been able to start the road to Money in the Bank because they've been stuck trying to build up to Saturday night's main event. So sometimes you can kind of create a bit of a bottleneck for yourself when you have this many shows. But with regards to Money in the Bank next year being after SummerSlam, I would not be surprised if this is just a one-year thing. Typically, Money in the Bank is in June or July, and next year in 2026 is the FIFA World Cup, and all eyes are going to be on that. Not only that, but the actual World Cup tournament, for the most part, is being hosted in the United States. So that is a lot of like competition in terms of eyeballs on TV, but also competition in terms of ticket sales across the entire country. So I just don't think that WWE wanted that smoke to go up against the FIFA World Cup. So they moved one of their biggest shows so that it doesn't compete against the World Cup and moved it to August. I think that that's literally the reason why. Is it crazy to call this potential match of the year contender? Of course not, because Carmelo and Andrade always put on match of the year contenders in their best of 7 series, and now you had Jacob freaking Fatu. Fuck yeah, dude. Of course this is going to be a contender for match of the year. They're really not doing a good job at getting me hyped for this. It's to the point that I forgot it was a thing before tonight's reminder. Disappointed. And this brings us back to what we were saying earlier. When you have too many shows, it becomes difficult to create hype and to build storylines for these other upcoming shows. Worlds Collide is just in such a weird place because it's after Saturday night's main event, after Battleground, because NXT is also building to this show. So WWE can't really build to Worlds Collide because they have to build to Saturday night's main event, and NXT can't build to Worlds Collide because they're building to Battleground, and apparently TNA is going to be part of this as well, but they literally just had a PLE, so they were busy building up to that. And then if you include Money in the Bank into that, it really just compounds the problem even more, that it makes it really difficult for WWE to really create a lot of hype and in storylines and feuds for this when they're bottlenecked by all the other shows that they're already building toward. I like that Julia won, but why pin Zelina and protect Charlotte from a pin? I love that Julia won, by the way. I think this is great. I actually don't even mind that she pinned Zelina Vega, specifically if after Money in the Bank, if Julia doesn't win, if they actually do something between Julia and Zelina Vega. If they don't do anything between these two, then I'm not gonna love the fact that the US champion was literally pinned in a qualifier match. In terms of why they're protecting Charlotte Flair, who the hell knows, dude? I don't know. It's Charlotte Flair. I can't tell you what the hell their thoughts are with her. I love Candice LeRae getting added to DIY since it gives her a good to do and paired with a team that gets a lot of attention. Now with this potential Wyatt 6 feud, it'll add someone for Nikki Cross to face as well. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a win-win situation for the Wyatt 6, as you said here. It gives somebody for Nikki Cross to go up against, but also it gives Candice LeRae the ability to be part of a division that is quickly becoming like one of the gems, one of the pearls of the WWE right now in the SmackDown tag team division. So I'm down for it. I do hope that Candice LeRae gets added to something like the US title picture at some point while still being part of DIY. I feel like that'd be great. Kind of like how Ivy Nile tends to be part of the Women's Intercontinental Championship picture while still being part of American Made. That's what I'd like to see out of Candice LeRae because she's just too damn good to only be a valet. Jacob saying, I love you, Solo, finally. Dude, I almost teared up. I felt the emotion on the screen from Solo Sakoa when he heard I love you, Solo, and he said, he hasn't said that in 6 months. Even though the Women's US Championship is on Saturday night's main event, they still did the champion dirty by having her take the pin in the Money in the Bank qualifier. To show respect to the title/division, you have to book the champion right. Well, yeah, I agree with you. The champion being pinned is definitely a bad look. That's why I'm looking for the silver lining. If they do follow it up with Julia going after the US Championship, that's fine, and I actually can't wait for that if that is the case. One of the things that I said in my predictions video for Saturday night's main event is I wouldn't be surprised if they just shoehorn a random Women's US Championship match to round out the show so that they can't say that they didn't book a women's match, and that's literally what they did. This was an all-men's show up until they shoehorned a women's match last second and done a terrible job of building towards it. This US Championship just continues to be in an uphill battle, both in terms of how the champion is booked. It happened with Chelsea Green. She was terribly booked, constantly losing matches, being pinned. It's happening right now to Zelina Vega. This championship can't seem to make it onto a PLE, rightfully so, because it hasn't really deserved to be on a PLE, unlike the IC Championship that's really on the up and up. Hopefully the addition of people like Julia into the division could really help rejuvenate this kind of dying championship that's already so young. Aleister Black should have won over LA Knight, but Triple H doesn't know how to properly capitalize at the right time, so we might have LA Knight's main event pushed 2 years too late. So that last little bit that you said, that's actually like very true. Sometimes sometimes WWE, they hold off way too long on the payoff, and by the time that they decide to do the payoff, people have lost interest. It happened with Otis's push. It's happened right now with Austin Theory's push and his potential babyface turn, and maybe this is going to be the case with LA Knight, because I do think that it's 2 years too late. I do think that he should have won in 2023 when it was fever pitch. I'm actually okay with LA Knight winning this over Aleister Black, because at the very least, Aleister Black has something going on in terms of a storyline. LA Knight, if he doesn't move on to Money in the Bank and do something new, he would have just been stuck in the same continuous bloodline vortex. So I'm glad that LA Knight is out of that and looking towards the Money in the Bank briefcase, while Aleister Black can continue to develop his feud with Carmelo Hayes and The Miz. By the way, they beautifully protected Aleister Black in this match, because it was Aleister Black's finisher, the Black Mass, that took out Shinsuke Nakamura, and LA Knight took advantage of Aleister Black's finisher move to pick up the victory. I thought that that was a brilliant, genius way to give LA Knight the victory, while also severely putting over Aleister Black by showing how dangerous his finisher is. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching this episode of Hot Takes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.